Okay, so you get the premium view of my bed. Oh wow. And now you get no view. Um, but so resonance is obviously. I'm just gonna give you a tiny bit of background, but I think you probably already know this. How low your resonance is, or how high your resonance is connected to the amount of space in that kind of area. So obviously, smaller spaces lead to higher resonance, right? Um, so there's a bunch of components in this. Yes, larynx height and mouth space are both important components. However, I think it's probably better to think of voice and resonance as this kind of like big amorphous variable, which is basically just controlled by size, right? And larynx height is a component. When we raise the larynx up, the size shrinks effectively because the space starts at a higher point, right? But we also have kind of like space in the back of our throat, right? And if really shrink that, then you probably get a cartoony quality like this. But you can probably shrink it to like a lesser extent, and you can probably find a brighter quality as a result, right? And you can also kind of like shape your tongue to fit that space, right? More closely, therefore again raising resonance, right? Um, and these are all components of it, right? But I think the fundamental single most like easy way to do it is one of two ways, right? So it's either playing around with voiceless exercise, so whispers, but being very careful to use and choose a sound, right? So a consistent sound, right? Not drifting. So it could be oh, oh, oh. What you don't want it to do is be like oh, right? You don't want it to turn into an A from an O or all this kind of things, right? So we want to be consistent as we do this because this will help us be better at modifying the resonance of our voice in the end. So, right, if I do oh, ah, ah, right, then it comes out in a kind of like good space if I add voice, right? But obviously, resonance isn't the only component there. Oftentimes, you can kind of have complications from playing with resonance, whether that's like excessive false or constriction, or um, sometimes people will have like a heavier quality like this. So where they're kind of more reducted than they intend to be, right, or thicker than they intend to be. And these two things are kind of things that you just will probably have to play around with. But so that's one approach you can take. The other, right, is finding a kind of like pure sound to begin with. So my suggestion for that would be checking out Sienna's new video for beginners. It's much nicer for beginners than all the other ones were. So what you might do for this, right, is you might find a sound like oh, oh. So obviously, higher pitch, very low resonance, honestly, and a soft sound, right? From there, I can be like oh, 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 right, and it'll get to a fem space. I'm lying down, so that demo wasn't amazing, but we'll 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 do what we can with what we got, right? Um, so the kind of next thing to kind of like think about is what do we do once we get there? So there's a bunch of different exercises we can play with voiced. One of them could be playing with the unvoiced stuff and then going to voice and practicing editing it. But the one or like the other ones might be like trying to get used to hearing what it might be. So you might go up to that higher pitch. Uh oh, so you might be there, right? You might be like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can hear what it sounds like to change it. Oh, oh, right, and we might be able to make it lower. That might be easier to begin with. Oh, 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 right? And we might get a feeling for it like that. Another thing you might have a go at is sounds like g and k. Go, go, ga,
yeah, 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 right. And that might help you get to the place you want. Obviously, you're probably gonna have to do like a bit more than just one go through, but if you consistently try to get brighter, starting on good loss of behavior at the end there, it wasn't super amazing. Just because I don't know, I'm probably lying in bed honestly. Um, but fingers crossed, that should give you some stuff to play with. Um, there's a limit to how much we can do without going into mumbo jumbo or like all this kind of stuff. So fingers crossed, I gave you a little bit of a hand. Um, yeah. If you found this helpful, then uh my suggestion would be go check out the kind of pinned post on the sub and like join maybe some of the voice communities in there because you'll probably find that useful.